Welcome back to the channel, coin collectors and treasure seekers. Rarest coins. Today we're diving deep into a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but has sparked tons of curiosity on the internet. The 1967 Washington Quarter. We're going to explore the history behind this coin, how much it's actually worth, what kinds of rare errors exist, and whether it's possible for one to be valued at $1,800,000. If you've ever checked your pocket change and wondered if an old quarter might be a hidden treasure, this video is for you. Let's get started. The history of the 1967 Washington Quarter. The Washington Quarter series was first introduced in 1932 to honor America's first president, George Washington. The original design was created by John Flanagan and has remained one of the most iconic coin designs in U.S. history. Over the decades, the quarter evolved, and by the 1960s, it had become an everyday coin used by millions of Americans. In 1967, the U.S. Mint produced a huge quantity of Washington quarters. Over 1.5 billion coins were struck that year. At that time, the coin was already made of copper-nickel clad rather than silver, because silver had been removed from quarters starting in 1965. Because of this transition from silver to clad metal and a temporary suspension of mint marks, all 1967 quarters were issued without any mint mark, whether they came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This makes the 1967 quarter distinctive in the series and marks it as part of a unique moment in U.S. coinage history. The lack of silver and the huge production numbers mean most examples are very common today. Most circulated 1967 Washington quarters are worth just their face value of 25 cents or a little more to collectors because of age alone. In typical condition, they trade around $1 or $2 at most. Typical value ranges and what most coins are worth for a 1967 quarter that you find in your pocket change. The value is usually just 25 cents or slightly above that, because so many were made and they have been in circulation for decades. Because they're copper-nickel clad rather than silver, they don't have intrinsic metal value like older silver quarters do. If a 1967 quarter is in uncirculated condition and has never been used, it may be worth a few dollars, often between a couple of dollars and maybe around $10 or more, depending on how sharp the strike and luster are. Some coin price guides show uncirculated specimens selling for higher amounts, especially if they achieve very high grades from professional grading services. Coins graded in top mint state grades can reach higher values because true pristine examples are rare. But even then, their value has historically topped out in the thousands, not hundreds of thousands, and certainly nowhere near what typical circulated coins are worth. Rare varieties and error coins. Now here's where things get interesting for collectors. While most 1967 quarters are common and worth only a few dollars at most, there are some rare error coins and unusual varieties that can be more valuable. These are the kinds of things serious collectors love to hunt for. One of the most talked about types are clipped planchet errors. These occur when the metal blank that was supposed to be struck into a coin was not cut out correctly, leaving a curved missing section on the edge. Some clipped planchet errors, especially in higher grades, have sold for thousands of dollars at auction. For example, coins with larger clipped planchet errors that grade well can fetch significantly more than typical quarters. Another category is off-center strikes, where the coin design is not struck in the correct position. These coins often show part of the design cut off and the rest blank. Depending on how far off-center the strike is and the condition of the coin, these can be worth more to the right collector. There are also double die errors, where the die that struck the coin had a doubling in the design, causing letters or details to appear doubled. These error varieties are collectible and can bring a premium versus a normal coin. The most valuable error categories tend to be planchet and strike errors, especially when combined with high condition. Collectors have documented pieces that have sold for several thousands of dollars for dramatic errors that are both rare and attractive. Some specialized auctions have seen very high grades or unique varieties bring significant premiums because collectors pay for rarity and eye appeal. The $1.8 million claim. Fact or fiction? So what about those bold online claims that a 1967 Washington quarter could be worth $1,800,000? There are videos and articles on the internet that talk about extreme error coins or world record examples of certain quarters selling for astronomical prices. These stories often mention the possibility of rare combinations of errors and perfect grade coins fetching huge amounts. But here's the reality. While error coins and high-grade examples can be valuable, there is no widely verified auction record of a 1967 Washington quarter selling for $1.8 million at a major, reputable coin auction house. Most of the highest documented sales for this date have been in the range of several $1,000s, and occasionally rare error coins that truly stand out can push into the five-figure range in exceptional cases. But a value in the seven-figure range is speculative and has not been confirmed by mainstream auction prices. Sometimes these million-dollar claims are based on theoretical value or on the idea that if someone might pay that much, it's possible. But coin values are only truly established when they are sold and the price is recorded in a trusted auction or marketplace. Until such a record exists for a 1967 quarter at that level, these stories should be treated skeptically. In other words, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Just because something might be rare doesn't mean the market will pay that extreme price for it. That said, if you believe you have a truly unique error coin, the way to find out its real worth is to have it examined and certified by a professional grading service. Only then can you get an accurate sense of its market value. How to evaluate your coin if you think you might have a rare 1967 quarter worth more than typical. First, don't clean or polish it, because that can damage the coin and reduce value. Use a magnifying glass or loupe to inspect the coin closely. Look for obvious errors like clips, off-center strikes, or doubled design elements. Next, compare it to known examples and error listings in collector guides. If you see strong error characteristics and the coin appears to be in exceptional condition, consider submitting it to a professional grading service. Grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins for authenticity and condition, assign them a grade on a standard scale, and encapsulate them in protective holders. A high grade or recognized error certification can significantly improve the resale value or collectible interest of your coin. So in summary, the 1967 Washington quarter is an intriguing piece of U.S. coinage history, especially because all coins that year were issued without mint marks and during a transitional period of coin production. Most of these quarters are common and worth only their face value unless they are in uncirculated condition or have notable mint errors. While there are rare and valuable varieties that can bring thousands of dollars at auction, claims that this coin could be worth $1,800,000 have not been substantiated with verified sales data. If you think you have something special, get it professionally examined and graded to find out what it's truly worth. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more videos about rare coins, grading tips, and hidden values in everyday change, hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and keep hunting for treasures in your pocket change. That script gives you a full breakdown of the coin's history, values, rare varieties, and the million-dollar value discussion in a style suited for a detailed YouTube video. Cointrackers.com. Welcome back to the channel, collectors and treasure hunters. Today we are talking about a coin that many people have in their pocket change, and many more have searched online about, the 1984 D Washington quarter dollar. If you've ever wondered whether a 1984 D quarter could be worth an incredible amount of money, like $1.5 million, you are not alone. There are many claims online saying that this coin is worth huge sums. But today we are going to explore the real history of this coin, what it's truly worth in the real world, and why massive values like $1.5 million are almost certainly not accurate. First, let's step back and talk about the history of the Washington Quarter series. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. John Flanagan designed the coin with Washington's portrait on the front and a bald eagle on the reverse. For many years, these quarters were struck in 90% silver, but in 1965, the United States Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition that is still used today. These modern quarters are among the most commonly used coins in everyday transactions in the United States. In 1984, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Washington quarters with the Denver Mint Mark D, which you will find on the obverse of the coin near Washington's bust. According to official mintage figures, over 546 million of these 1984 D Washington quarters were made, making them a very common coin in circulation. Because so many were produced and released into circulation, most 1984 D quarters that you find in change are worth only their face value of 25 cents. A standard circulated coin without any special characteristics is simply not rare. That is how coin collecting works at its core. The fewer coins that survive in top condition or the fewer that were struck overall, the more potentially valuable they might be. In the case of the 1984 D Washington quarter, there are so many of them that scarcity is not something that drives huge values. When we talk about actual market values for these coins in real auctions and sales data, the range you will see for a typical 1984 D Washington quarter in everyday condition is just face value, around 25 cents. If the coin has never been used and looks bright and uncirculated, it may bring slightly more money, perhaps a few dollars in the right marketplace. Coins that are graded by professional services and certified as uncirculated like MS-63 to MS-65 can sell for tens of dollars. Extremely high-grade uncirculated examples like MS-67 graded coins have sold at auction for several $100s, and some markets show top examples bringing around $400 or a bit more in rare cases. These kinds of prices are real and reflect what serious coin collectors have actually paid when these coins come up at auction or in certified sales. Where do claims about a $1.5 million value come from? These sorts of figures almost always originate from internet hype, misinformation, or misinterpreted listings on marketplaces where sellers put an unrealistic price hoping to attract attention. Listing a coin for $1 million does not mean it has sold for $1 million or that anyone would actually pay that amount. In coin collecting, the only values that matter are completed sales and verified auction records. A coin listed online for astronomical sums is not evidence of real market value. The most expensive examples of 1984 Washington quarters ever sold are far below $1 million, and that includes coins from the Philadelphia Mint as well as Denver. Even exceptional examples graded extremely high never approach values like $1.5 million in legitimate numismatic records. Some people also think errors could make a 1984 D quarter worth huge amounts. It is true that coins with major minting errors such as off-center strikes, doubled dies, or planchet mistakes can be worth more than regular examples. Error coins can sometimes fetch hundreds or even a few $1,000s depending on the type and severity of the error, but even those values are hundreds or low thousands, not millions. If you find a coin that looks unusual or defective, it might be a good idea to have it examined by a professional before assuming it is worth a fortune. That it's also important to understand that condition matters a lot. A coin that has been in circulation for decades will have wear, scratches, and dull details. These worn examples are usually only worth their face value of 25 cents. Coins that have never been used and still show full mint luster can be more valuable to collectors, but those are rare because most coins were spent as soon as they left the bank. Even in the best condition you could hope for with a 1984 D quarter, the highest values stay in the hundreds of dollars range, not in the millions. So, if you have a 1984 D Washington quarter and you are curious whether it is worth checking out further, here are a few tips. First, look at the condition. Does the coin appear shiny and new with sharp details on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers, or is it worn and dull from circulation? Second, look for any obvious mint errors. If something looks truly strange, unusual, or clearly different from a normal coin, it might be worth having a professional coin dealer or grading service take a closer look. Third, if you decide to have it graded or appraised, make sure you compare real sales records from reputable auction houses or coin price guides so you know what people have actually paid recently. In conclusion, the 1984 D Washington quarter is a common modern coin with a fascinating history in the long series of Washington quarters. Most examples are worth face value, and uncirculated or error coins might sell for a modest premium in the real market. Websites and sellers claiming values like $1.5 million for this date are almost certainly spreading misinformation. True numismatic value is based on rarity, condition, demand, and what buyers have actually paid in verified sales. And if you dig into real data, you will see this coin's value stays well below those exaggerated amounts. Thank you for watching and learning about the real story behind the 1984 D Washington quarter. If you enjoyed this video and want more coin history, valuable finds, and tips on how to evaluate your own collection, please subscribe and leave a comment below about the next coin you want us to explore. Keep hunting for hidden treasures in your change and always check the facts before believing the hype. Would you like this script rewritten with a dramatic intro hook or optimized for YouTube Shorts? Welcome back to the channel, coin collectors and treasure hunters. Today we are taking an in-depth look at the 1993 P. Washington quarter dollar. You may have seen videos or posts online claiming this coin is worth astronomical sums like $1.6 million. In this video, we will break down the true history of this coin, what real collectors pay for it, and why million-dollar claims are almost always misinformation. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design by John Flanagan features Washington's portrait on the front and an eagle on the back. From its beginning until 1964, the quarter was made of 90% silver, but starting in 1965, the United States Mint changed to a copper-nickel-clad composition that is used in modern quarters. The Washington quarter design remained standard until the state quarter program began in 1999, making these coins some of the most familiar in everyday American coinage. In 1993, the Philadelphia Mint struck Washington quarters with the P Mint mark. According to official mintage figures, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters that year, with more than 630 million coins bearing the P Mint mark. Because of these huge production numbers, this coin is considered very common among modern quarters. Most people have likely spent or saved hundreds of these over the years without realizing they might have a collectible coin in their pocket. What is the actual value of a 1993 P. Washington quarter? If you find one in your pocket change that has been used in circulation and shows normal wear, its value is just its face value of 25 cents. These common quarters from 1993 are not made of silver and are very plentiful. Even uncirculated examples that look almost new usually only bring a small premium over face value among collectors, often selling for a few dollars in typical coin markets. Coin price guides show that an uncirculated 1993 P. Washington quarter might be worth around $8 in high mint state condition, though values vary based on demand and grading. Coins that have been professionally graded by services like PCGS or NGC typically command higher values than raw ungraded coins, but even then the upper ranges are modest compared to internet hype. You can find information from respected coin value sites showing typical market prices for these coins. Collectors looking at auction results see values in the single digits to low tens of dollars for the 1993 P in most grades. Some rarer or unusual coins do exist. Errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, or other minting abnormalities can make certain coins more interesting to collectors and bring higher prices. For example, a quarter that was struck off-center or doubled might be worth a few tens or even hundreds of dollars depending on how dramatic the error is. Yet, even error coins from 1993 have documented auction results far below the million-dollar range. Errors do attract collector interest, but value always depends on actual sales records and the severity and desirability of the error, not just a hopeful asking price online. Where do claims about a 1993 P quarter being worth $1.6 million come from? These stories usually come from internet hype, videos with sensational titles, or sellers listing coins at extreme prices hoping to attract clicks. A listing is not the same as a sale. What matters in numismatics is actual verified auction results. When you look at completed sales from reputable auction houses and databases, even the best examples of 1993 P quarters have not sold for anywhere close to $1 million. The most valuable examples are those in top uncirculated grades, and they might sell for a few dozen to a few $100s in rare cases, depending on the market and collector demand. There are no widely accepted records of a 1993 P. Washington quarter selling for historic millions. If you think you might have a valuable version of this coin, here are some tips to check. First, examine the grade and condition. A coin with sharp details, full luster, and no wear is more valuable than one with heavy circulation. Second, look for obvious minting errors or unusual features that differ from standard coins. Third, consider having the coin authenticated and graded by a reputable grading service. A professional grade often helps collectors trust that a coin is genuine and accurately described, which can make it easier to sell or trade. Always look at actual sale records rather than asking prices when determining value, because collectors base their decisions on what buyers have actually paid. It's also a good idea to research completed auction results and consulting coin price guides for the most accurate market information. Sites that track coin prices include a range of documented sales and provide realistic values based on actual transactions. This approach separates speculation from verified data. Just because a seller on an online marketplace lists a 1993 P quarter for hundreds of thousands or millions does not mean that coin has ever sold for that price. In fact, most listings are simply hopeful asking prices that do not reflect what serious collectors are willing to pay. In conclusion, the 1993 P Washington quarter is a common modern coin with a fascinating place in American numismatic history. Despite being widely available and often circulating among everyday change, it is not inherently rare or worth millions of dollars. Most examples are worth face value, and even the highest quality uncirculated coins or error varieties sell for modest amounts compared to sensational claims. Real value comes from rarity, condition, historical significance, and actual sales records. True million-dollar coins exist in very limited categories and usually involve historic rarities or extremely low mintage issues, not common modern quarters like the 1993 P. Thank you for watching and learning the real story behind the 1993 P. Washington quarter dollar. If you enjoy videos about coin history, rare finds, and how to evaluate your own collection, please subscribe and leave a comment with what coin you want us to explore next. Keep searching through your change and always check the facts before believing the hype. Would you like this rewritten with a dramatic intro hook or a shorter version for YouTube Shorts? Welcome back to the channel, treasure hunters and coin collectors. Today we are diving into one of the most talked about modern United States coins in recent years, the 1995 P. Washington quarter. You may have seen rumors online claiming a 1995 P quarter is worth huge amounts of money, even as much as $1.4 million. In this video, we will separate fact from fiction, talk about the real history of this quarter, its actual values in the marketplace, and how you can tell if the coin you found is really valuable. History of the Washington quarter. The Washington quarter was first issued in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design was created by John Flanagan and features the first United States president on the front or obverse of the coin and an eagle on the back or reverse. The Washington quarter became so popular that it stayed in production well beyond its anniversary year and has been America's standard 25-cent piece for decades. By 1965, the composition changed from a 90% silver metal to a copper-nickel-clad coin that we are familiar with today. From that year onward, Washington quarters are not made from silver, but from layers of copper and nickel bonded together over a pure copper core. In 1995, the United States Mint produced coins at 3 facilities. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion coins that carry the designation P, or often no mint mark on the obverse. The Denver Mint produced over 1 billion with a D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint produced special proof coins for collectors. Despite these massive production numbers, number 1995 quarter was ever intended to be a super rare or special high-value coin when it was first made. What the 1995 P quarter is worth in reality, let's talk about what these coins are actually worth. A typical 1995 P Washington quarter that was used in everyday pocket change and shows the wear of circulation is usually worth its face value of 25 cents. That means most of these coins are just worth a quarter. Even coins in uncirculated condition that look almost new usually only fetch a few dollars, depending on how clean they are and whether they have been graded by a professional service. For example, examples in mint state might sell for around $15 or slightly more if they have pristine surfaces. Rare certified examples in the highest grades can bring a few $1,000s at auction, but these are extremely uncommon and not worth millions. Auction records show that a 1995 P. Washington quarter in perfect condition graded MS-68 sold for just over $3,600 at a major auction. That is a lot of money compared to face value, but it is not even close to $1 million. Because over 1 billion of these coins were made at the Philadelphia Mint, they are actually very common today. That means the typical coin you find in your pocket or in a roll is just worth face value or a small premium if it happens to be in excellent condition. Why some people think they are worth millions? So where do rumors come from about a 1995 P quarter fetching $1.4 million? Most of the time, these claims are born from speculation or misleading online listings that show a crazy high price without any actual auction history behind them. Coin sellers often list coins with extremely inflated prices, hoping someone will pay more than they are truly worth. Online marketplaces are full of that kind of listing. There are also error coins. Sometimes a coin gets struck off center or on the wrong planchet or has a double die on the lettering. These error coins can be worth more than a normal coin, sometimes hundreds or even a couple $1,000s depending on the severity and collectability of the error. But even the rare error coins from 1995 do not come close to an auction record of over $1 million. Mistakes like off-center strikes or die doubling do attract collectors, but verified sales show values far below $1 million. But another reason people spread dramatic values is because they confuse the 1995 quarter with much rarer coins from other years. Key dates like the 1932 Washington quarters or certain silver issues from early years have sold for tens of thousands of dollars or more. That does not apply to the 1995 clad coins. How to know what you have if you think you found a valuable 1995 P quarter? The first step is to examine its condition. Clean, sharp details with no wear, scratches, or marks will always fetch more than a worn coin. Next, look for obvious minting errors. These can add value, but you should research carefully or ask a professional coin grader to verify the error is genuine. Then consider having the coin graded by a reputable grading service. A professional grade can confirm authenticity and quality and often increases the coin's value. The most important piece of advice is to always check actual completed sales, not just asking prices. A coin listed for $100,000 on a marketplace is not worth that amount unless someone actually paid that price in a verified transaction. Conclusion: the 1995 P. Washington quarter is a fascinating piece of American numismatic history. It comes from a year with huge mintage, and most examples are only worth their face value or a modest premium. Once in a great, while a rare uncirculated or error coin can bring a few $1,000s at auction, but claims about $1.4 million values are almost certainly internet hype. If you enjoyed this video and want coin collecting tips, valuations explained, or help separating myths from reality in the world of numismatics, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment about what coin you want covered next. Thanks for watching, and keep hunting for hidden treasures in your change. Cointrackers.com+2 if you want. I can tailor this script with a more dramatic hook at the start or add on-screen text ideas for your video. Welcome back to the channel, coin hunters and numismatic enthusiasts. Today we are exploring one of the most discussed modern United States coins, the 1997 P. Washington quarter dollar, and answering a big question many people are asking online. Is this coin worth as much as $1.3 million? In this video, we will walk through the history of the 1997 Washington quarter, explain how coin values are really determined, and break down the truth about that million-dollar claim. The Washington quarter has been one of America's most iconic coins since it was first introduced in 1932. It was created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth and features his portrait on the front, or obverse, and an eagle on the back in the classic design that lasted for decades. This design was created by the sculptor John Flanagan and remained the standard for quarters for most of the 20th century. The original issues were made of 90% silver, but in 1965 the composition changed to a copper nickel-clad alloy that is still used in modern quarters today. In 1997, the United States Mint produced Washington quarters at multiple facilities. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins that year. In fact, nearly 600 million 1997 P. Washington quarters were made, making this date one of the most common modern quarters in circulation. Because so many were produced, the vast majority of them are not rare at all and are found in circulation every day. Now let's talk about what these coins are actually worth. A typical 1997 P. Washington quarter that has been used in circulation and shows normal, whereas worth just its face value of 25 cents. That means if you find one in your pocket or jar of spare change, that is most likely all it is worth today. Coins in uncirculated condition that show very little wear can be worth more, but even then values tend to be modest compared to the wild claims you might see on the internet. According to coin value guides and market data, uncirculated 1997 P quarters in mint state might sell for a few dollars to maybe around $10 or $15 if they are in very nice condition. A very high-grade example certified by a professional grading service once sold at auction for just over $3,000, which is a respectable price for a modern quarter, but nowhere near $1 million. The large supply of these coins means there are simply too many in existence for most of them to be rare or extremely valuable. Some people do search for error coins or unusual varieties, and those can be worth more than typical examples. For instance, a doubled die, off-center strike, or a coin struck on the wrong planchet may attract collector interest and command a higher price. Values for such error coins might range from tens to a few $100s depending on the type and severity of the error. Rare varieties with extreme errors sometimes go for more, but even these seldom reach life-changing prices. So why do people talk about a 1997 P quarter being worth $1.3 million? The short answer is that these claims are almost always internet hype or misinformation. Online marketplaces often display listing prices that are wildly inflated to attract attention, but a listing price is not the same as a real sale. The only things that matter in numismatics are actual sales records and verified auction results. Sellers sometimes put unrealistic prices on common coins hoping someone will take the bait, but experienced collectors focus on completed sales and real market data. Another reason for confusion is that people sometimes mix up different coins or rare modern issues with older or truly rare coins. There are centuries-old coins and very low mintage issues from the early 20th century that have sold for huge sums, but a 1997 clad Washington quarter from the Philadelphia Mint is not one of them. The value of any coin comes down to how rare it is, its condition, historical significance, and collector demand, and the 1997 P quarter, despite its history, does not check the boxes that would justify a $1 million value. If you do find what you think is a valuable 1997 P quarter, here are some steps you can take to understand its worth. First, examine the condition. Look for sharp details, minimal wear, and strong luster. Second, look for any unusual features or errors. Third, consider having the coin authenticated and graded by a reputable grading service. A professional grade can give you confidence in the coin's quality and often makes it easier to sell to serious collectors. Always remember to check actual completed sales. Look at auction records and verified transactions to see what similar coins have sold for recently. That is the only reliable way to determine what a coin is worth in the current market. A coin listed for $1 million on an online marketplace is just a hopeful asking price unless someone actually paid that amount. In summary, the 1997 P Washington quarter is a fascinating piece of American coinage with a long history and wide popularity, but it is not rare in the sense that it would be worth $1.3 million. Most are worth face value unless in exceptional condition or possessing a significant error, in which cases they may be worth a few dollars up to a few $1,000s at most. There truly is no verified record of a standard 1997 P quarter selling for anything close to $1 million. Thank you for watching and taking the time to learn more about the real story behind the 1997 P Washington quarter. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about coins, rare finds, and how to evaluate your own collection, please subscribe and leave a comment with what coin you want us to explore next. Keep hunting, keep learning, and stay curious about the treasures hiding in plain sight. Would you like this rewritten with a stronger hook at the beginning or a shorter version for a quick TikTok-style reel?